So welcome to the Serial Entrepreneur Club. This is actually our 5th session. Now we are actually #1 in the position on Google. This has been something we've talked about in the past, how important it is for anyone who runs a room or a club to actually have a website. So if you go on the internet and you type the term Serial Entrepreneur Club, we actually come up in the #1 position. So we're very excited about that. And it took about 4 weeks to get that. So if you're ever thinking about doing that, that's sort of the time frame you might want to think about before you're going to get to the top of Google. Now, today we're changing it up a bit. My good friend Lil Roberts is here. She is the founder of Zendu, and I am actually an investor in her company. I love subscription models. I think they're one of the best models for entrepreneurs to start businesses with. We're here today with Norm Farrar, podcast extraordinaire. Paul, can you ping Paul? I know he was agreed to come in. He's one of our experts as well today. And Michelle, if you could ping Ish as the room comes together here, that would be great. Paul is actually a digital marketing expert, and Ish is a top 100 global influencer as well. And we got Ryan who came in there, and if Ish doesn't make it, we'll pull Ryan. I just introduced you, Paul. Of course, we also have on the team the articulate Rachel and our blogger. We have the pun master himself, Mr. Jeffrey Sass, the CMO of .club. And lastly, the president of .club, Michelle Van Tilburg, who will be our lead moderator today. So over to you, Rachel, for the Rachel recap.
Thank you so much for having me again today. Last week, we talked to BoxyCharm CEO Joseph Martin about starting a business. He started his business off of Clubhouse, but we did have a little bit of a chat about using Clubhouse to your advantage if you are looking to start your company using Clubhouse. He has a remarkable story. I highly recommend going and checking that out at our Serial Entrepreneur blog over at se.club. If you weren't able to tune in last week, we actually have the full podcast recording available for you to listen to, and I did a summation of the session as well in writing if you'd like to read. So se.club for those of you who want to go check out our blog. And just a reminder here today that we are a give to get club, so please no selling, no pitching, no plugging, and also be kind. Thanks, Colin. And I think over to Michelle.
You're on mute, Michelle.
Hello, guys.
Hey, Ish. You missed your intro.
That's all right. So we're going to get started.
Sorry, I'm walking through a parking lot. I'm here in Florida. My name's Ish. I go by Ish Millie. I'm an influencer marketer. I work with brands to get them more visibility. And I'm very passionate about digital real estate. So I'm here. I'm happy to join. I'm here to listen and learn.
Thank you, Ish. Thanks so much. All right. So we have Lil Roberts here. Lil is an amazing person. Lil, I'm going to give you a little nickname here for this session, something that I haven't heard people say so far. I'm going to call you a queen of fintech. So for those that don't know Lil, she runs, I would say it's a software as a service platform that's extremely popular, growing at a great rate. She has gotten many, many awards. She was selected by Jason Calacanis as one of his, I guess he invested in you and mentored you for several months there in Silicon Valley. So without further ado, I think it would be, great for the audience, Lil, for them to understand what your platform really does and how you're differentiated in the market. And then we'll just jump into, our panel of experts here, helping Lil and how she can scale and grow using Clubhouse.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle. And thank you, Colin. And just so great to be on here with a lot of great friends. And yes, Colin, love that you're an investor in Zendu. And I just love what we're doing here with .club and Clubhouse. So just a real high level, serial entrepreneur or full cycle entrepreneur, as a lot of people that are on the call and in Clubhouse in general. and saw a need in the marketplace around accounting for business owners, for small business owners, that wasn't being met by the traditional industry. It was still an analog industry. And so after exiting my last business in manufacturing, I said, what industry out there is still analog that technology needs to come knock on the doorstep that would help and empower small business owners and fix a terrible pain point for them? And so when I reviewed what's always been a pain point for me and all my businesses, it was dealing with an industry that didn't take care of the small business owners, and largely not because they didn't want to, but because there wasn't technology out there that allowed them to run at the speed that small business runs. And so that's what we're building. Zendu is a fintech company. And yes, thank you, Michelle. We are invested by not only Jason Calacanis and Deep Work out of Orlando, but also Revolution Fund, which is Steve Case, founder of AOL, and through Rise of the Rest, as well as a lot of other independent investors that are, some are close friends and others that are through syndicates. And so what we do is we help small business owners throughout the United States and in 12 countries, those extra companies outside that have businesses in the US. Typically it's an e-com business, or it's an IT managed care, or some type of business that's running in the US and they're in Australia or Italy or China or Ukraine. And they use us to take care of the bookkeeping and to file their corporate tax returns. We've been super fortunate. We as you mentioned, we win some awards, a lot of them that we don't apply for. So, I think that it just really speaks not as much to us, but more to that this is such a need in the industry to help small business owners and to help startups understand their financials so they can stay in business. I'm personally super excited about today with the great brain trust that you guys have assembled, because I would like to posture out a hypothesis of to have a brutally open dialogue of how do we take this incredible platform and how do we, with our company, what would be the way for us to, one, let small business owners know that we're here to help educate them, and then how do we acquire customers potentially through Clubhouse? So with that, I want to open it up to you guys, and I want to say, we do own tax.club, we do own bookkeeping.club, and we do own accounting.club, and we're planning on filing to put to use accounting because we think it's overarching. But I'd like to hear from you guys. Do you think it should be a bookkeeping.club, an accounting.club, or a tax.club? And then what do you think is the right way to scale this?
Great. Thank you, Lil. So, just to reset the room, Lil has a very robust platform that's proven. I can even speak for myself. I run a company, meowingtons.com, that uses our platform. It's really fantastic in many ways. And I think the need here today is, how does Lil build this business? So given that and Lil's request, I would ask Lil one question. Could you give us a little bit more information on who is your ideal prospect, your ideal customer, so that we can help formulate some ideas with you?
Would love that. Thank you. So we take care of customers that are less than 20 employees and that fall in, they sell one of two things. If they sell time, they're typically in professional services, and the revenue is going to be about 150 to 200,000. And if they sell a product like e-com or a brick and mortar, or they're a retail service like a gym, massage, you break, I fix, dry cleaner, companies like that, then or trade businesses, then those do typically 400,000 and above. And we like to educate the small business owners. We're super passionate about their success. So we're really here about financial peace of mind, customer love, and delivering things that help the product and education that helps them have understand their numbers and have a better life.
So question, sorry, Michelle, question on that. That's the revenues that they're running or revenues that you're earning from them?
Revenues that they're running. So we're not an enterprise platform. So as Michelle said, we're a SaaS, so we're a subscription model. And actually there's another category in the VC world that's still SaaS, but it's service as a software. So we're tech enabled. We have our own proprietary technology that we wrap around QuickBooks and we wrap around Xero, and we deliver, the financials by the 5th business day of the following month, which is unheard of. in the accounting industry. So we're an early mover reshaping the accounting industry. So if we're on Clubhouse and there's all these entrepreneurial minds, which is what I love and why I tune into Clubhouse, is to hear all of the, we all get great ideas from the conversations, and we want to hear about ideas and not hear about people talking about people or things. So with the audience on Clubhouse, should we deliver a content-driven educational room? Should we deliver tips? Like, what do you guys think that would attract the people we're looking for? So we're looking for those serial entrepreneurs with multiple businesses. What do you think would attract them?
I can chime in. I would say the first step will be to create awareness, right? You have to build the community. I got you. You got to build a community. Once you decide on what URL you want to use, I would just look for a way to start building a list, a community, and then ask them what they want to learn. Just my 2 cents.
I would want to know like what you're currently doing and what's working.
Okay, great.
Sorry, those are 2 questions. So Ish is first, and I'm sorry, I should have waited till you answer.
Okay, so on Ish's, I'd like your thoughts around, would you tune into a room that was accounting.club, tax.club, or bookkeeping.club?
If I could afford to do all of them, I would do all of them. I have a couple of friends that are CPAs, and some of them are tax accountants, and some have other specialties. And I think that accounting is very vague, but it just, for me, it just depends on what your goals are, right? And I'm so sorry, I'm just like in the middle of doing multiple things right now. But if I understood what you said correctly, was you're trying to figure out what name to use. Accounting is very general, and you'll capture more that way. But tax is more hyper targeted, and you'll get the specific category you're looking for that way. So I would have to learn more about what you're doing, like Paul said.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't lead with any of those, to be completely honest. Those are all super boring. And this is just me being honest. They're super boring, and you're not going to attract anybody other than accountants. You want to attract people with the solution. So how to get 15% more back on your taxes, or SMBs, like the room title would be like SMBs or SMB secret tax tips from expert accountants, or something along those lines. It's got to be like, what are you doing and who are you serving? And so let's say that you're like in a consult, you work with coaches. There's a ton of coaches on this platform, right? They're selling their knowledge. So like tax tips for coaches, like tax tips that save millions for coaches, or something along those lines.
Got it. Great point. So in other words, tax.club may be the better one to go after than accounting, because then we can make the title of the room anything we want. And so I guess it's 2 separate things. One, which domain should I use? Because to apply to Clubhouse, right, you really got to have the domain and have the web page. And I can spin up all 3 web pages, but I get one shot at the applying with them, because to my knowledge, you can't have multiple rooms yet.
I mean, you can have as many rooms as you want. You can only have 1 club. Technically, you're only allowed. But I mean, Michael Sanchez, he keeps applying for clubs and he keeps getting them. Meanwhile, I've applied and I don't even know if it went in correctly.
Okay.
So the biggest thing, I mean, what I would say is that you want to start by testing rooms. You don't need a club to start a room like this. Start by testing rooms and split testing. So known factors that we know that boost room size would be if you co-host the room, if the person who's starting the room has a large following. So like if Ish started the room, he has 14,000 people that follow him. The majority of those, I know that like more people in his following would get alerts than if it was just like me, like I have almost 8,000. Clubhouse is kind of a crowd attracts a crowd mentality. And you need to leverage that like when you're getting started. But what I would say too is I would split test the titles of the rooms. And I would say, based on your ideal customer persona that put together engaging titles that would help them accomplish stuff, and then even split test which like the domain you're using and which one has a better resonance in terms of like uptick in lead magnet acquisition, if you will.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Nice and
Lil,
quiet.
sorry.
Yeah.
I agree with Paul, actually. I think just because you have these names, and they're great names, but they may not be great names in the context of what you want to accomplish within Clubhouse, because they are very general, and I agree 100% with Paul. Accounting.club is going to attract accountants. It's not going to attract the small business customers or potential customers that you want to engage with. So you really want to think about what is the title, and you can get that domain name. Whatever you choose, you'll get the domain name. We'll help you. But you want to choose a title that's going to attract the audience you're trying to speak to. You don't want to attract accountants. You don't want to attract bookkeepers. You don't want to attract tax experts. That's who you are. That's who you are replacing with your business. You want to attract the people who need the services of those and normally can't afford the big firms because they're small businesses. So I think small business, something along those lines, has to be a part of your branding on Clubhouse.
Gary, thanks for coming, by the way. So if you guys don't know Gary, Gary, let me look at your profile. You've been on since the Christmas Eve. And Gary, why don't you do an intro really quick? But Gary's really quickly established himself as like one of the most helpful people on Clubhouse. Like his rooms are massive, and he deals a lot with this issue of monetizing Clubhouse.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Paul. And, hey, good to see you, Jeffrey and Colin and Michelle. Definitely familiar with this room. And Ish, good to see you, buddy. We did a Friday in here a couple of weeks ago. But, my name is Gary Henderson. I've helped a lot of people monetize their influence. And I've personally monetized my influence here on Clubhouse in a decent way. I mean, I've pulled 6 figures in so far this year. I have a book contract that came with a 5-figure book advance that'll be nationally published through Hay House. So I've been able to do that. I've grown a decent following. I don't have the biggest following on here, but I'd say my art is really aligning messaging with where it's going to go at the end of the day. So audience and message alignment, making sure that we're talking about where we want people to go. So like for me right now, talking all about Clubhouse because I have a book coming out. My book comes out on the 12th of October. That's our tentative date right now. So in 8 months, I'll have a book on the shelf, a little less than 8 months. So everything I'm doing is Clubhouse, 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 because I need people to see me, hear me, believe in me as a Clubhouse expert. So when my book hits the shelves, they actually go buy it. And that'll take people down the next path. So many times we get caught in talking about what we want to talk about or what's fun, and we lose sight of where we're going or where our vision and where our goals are. So I could easily sit here all day and talk about how to grow an agency or how to run Facebook ads or how to grow a podcast or how to get 1 million subscribers on YouTube or how to get 300 million downloads on a podcast. I can talk about all of those things because I've done all those things. But what I couldn't do is it wouldn't align. So that's a little bit about me. And now I'm happy to chime in and answer any questions or hang out with you guys. I know I wanted to come in here and Paul just messaged me. So thanks for that, Paul.
Anytime.
So the question is for Lil, where she has already a successful platform that is in fintech, it's software as a service that provides accounting and tax services for small businesses. So Lil has posed a question, and we pose a question to the group. What would you do? How could she scale and grow her business using Clubhouse, knowing that her audience, I think you said, Lil, typically they have $400,000 revenue or greater, and they're in the small business sector?
Up to 15 million. So we have customers up to 15 million, and probably the average size is, 1.5 million to 2 million. And to clarify even more, right now we have 14 active acquisition channels that we acquire customers through. And so, and we like to acquire customers that are fits and through, helping them and educating them. And we're very passionate about, we want to help small business owners. So I'm looking at Clubhouse and saying, okay, I know there's something here. What is the right way to go about acquiring customers through Clubhouse and helping customers?
Yes. What's great is we know that Lil has, like she said, the 14 or 15 acquisition channels. I can tell you, I'm a client of hers. They have a lot of very strong content just to add on to this. So how could she leverage this to even grow beyond her current customer base?
Yeah, I would take your current acquisition channels and I would look at what's working there, look at the types of conversations, look at the types of questions that are coming from people. All Clubhouse is an audience platform. It's exactly the same as Facebook. It's exactly the same as YouTube, except for you need to be live and do it, and you'll have a bigger organic reach. So if you filmed a YouTube video or you wrote a blog post or you posted on any social channel, you know, traditional push outreach, you know, hey, I'm going to do a video, I'm going to put it out here, and I hope like everything people come and watch my video. Well, what you probably do then is you probably say, well, I'm going to run some ads for my video and get some people to look at my video. You do it in Clubhouse, you just do it a little differently. What you do here is you say, I'm going to host a room with my ideal people on stage with me. So I'll host a room, for example, and I'll bring in Ish or I'll bring in Paul, and I'll talk about something that interests them, but also aligns with what I'm doing. So you may want to talk about, I'm just pulling up your website here, just so I can speak a little bit more intellectually about this. So when I look at online bookkeeping and tax team, you know, that's what you are. I see it. I'm looking. It says you work with Xero. You work with QuickBooks. It says you've got some great clients here, Tropical Cat Smoothie Cafe. So you're working with good clients. So what I would be talking about is entrepreneur tax savings. I'd be running a room about entrepreneur tax savings. I'd be running a room about accuracy in accounting. I would be running a room about, you know, what's something you didn't know. I'd be running a room of Ask an Accountant room. Whatever you feel comfortable doing, and bringing in some of your team, your people, your resources, your clients. I would also feature your clients in a really big way if you're comfortable doing it. Bringing in some of your key clients onto a platform like this and talking about finance, talking about accounting with a head of a CFO from Tropical Smoothie Cafe or a CFO from one of your key clients and bringing them in. Or if you're the virtual CFO or you're handling those roles for them, or you have someone that's handling roles, bring that person in as an organizer of that. You know, I think there's a lot of opportunities to hold a conversation that's not necessarily come by my service, but then it positions you as a leader in the industry. So by proxy, you become the person that people want to buy anyway.
You know, can I chime in? Can I chime in now that I have more clarity? Back to the question about accountant.club versus tax.club. I will go with tax.club any day. And this is not an emotional decision. This is based on analytics. Tax has more, it's just a higher ranked keyword, has more, you know, demand, right? More people search taxes or tax accounting than people search for accounting. Accounting is very vague, right? So I think tax.club is a phenomenal name. 3-letter domain, passes the radio test, and you really minimize the risk of people mistyping it, right? So I think tax.club would be phenomenal. Speaks directly to what you're doing.
I mean, you could even have like a title of the room of like white hat tax hacks that will save you millions.
I love it. I love it. And look, we save thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars with for small business owners. And I love what you're saying about that. Ask an accountant or just how to save tax dollars and spin up the room. So I think to say back to you guys, that it's about having a great, you know, the title of the room doesn't have to be the domain name of the room. Just have a great title for the room and the topics that we cover, and then have an easy domain that we spin up that they can go to and get more content and can interact. And then maybe through that other domain, lead them to Zendu if they'd like. And, you know, as you were talking about it, bringing on people with value, like we have franchisors and they love it. So we could have them speak to, you know, how it helps their franchisees, because that's, you know, we're going to see more and more franchises popping up now with what's happening, you know, in the economy.
So great. Gary, just real quick.
We also have franchise clubs here too, just so you're aware. And sorry to interrupt you, Michelle, but there are some very popular, one of my friends, actually, George Knopf, he runs a franchise club, and Eric Van Horn runs another one. And I think they each have over 1,000 members in the club here on Clubhouse.
Wow. So if we could speak on theirs, we have a data warehouse. We have Snowflake that helps franchisors to get the data-driven analytics that they need to help their franchisees. And so those are topics where once our room is up, we can share back and forth, but they already have 1,000 people in the room. It'd be amazing to go on and to deliver, you know, helpful content.
It's great. Let's reset the room here for a second. Gary, we just need for you to acknowledge that you're okay with recording this session.
Yeah, I am okay with recording the session, and I just pinged in George Knopf. He's down here in the follow by the speakers. He's the one running one of the franchise clubs here on the platform as well.
Okay, George, I'm going to move you to the stage.
And I am, just for clear, I am 100% acceptable with this being recorded and being used ever how you choose to do so.
Thank you. And George, you're okay with recording?
I am.
All right, excellent.
And
All right,
I am as well, since I didn't give my verbal, but yes, I am.
All right, thank you, Paul, for picking that up. So we're back to Lil. Lil runs a very popular fintech Zendoo, Xendoo, financial platform that provides CPA and tax services in the cloud. So we're getting some really fantastic ideas here. Lil has lots of content. Gary has some great ideas about how to make those topics more compelling so that people are really, compelled to come into the rooms to learn. George, so obviously Gary pulled you in. Lil had mentioned that she also does franchisees, and of course you came to mind as an expert in that field.
Well, it's very kind. I've been in the franchise industry for close to 30 years at this point, have been in operations, in development, and for the past 20 years in an interesting kind of consulting role where I help individuals and business owners and investment funds find their perfect franchises.
And George runs an amazing club here on the platform, a franchise club, George. That's exactly why I brought you in, was talking about your club a little bit. So if you want to talk about that briefly.
Exactly.
We've set up a club kind of focused on empire building. It's, when I talk to candidates, I used to use the word portfolio building, and a number of years ago just moved to the term empire building because everybody seems to light up a little more when they picture it. But the idea with what we're doing, a group of us on the franchise side of things, is that when I first came in, and I was brought in by Gary in the Clubhouse, and there were all these rooms on digital marketing and all this stuff that I was fascinated by, but I wasn't really seeing my community there. And I started looking around in the database, and there were a few, and I would connect with everybody I could find that mentioned franchising. And early January, there weren't a lot of my industry people there. But over time, it's growing. And so we set up a club. They've been finding us, as have a lot of people that have just an interest in franchising and growing businesses and so forth. So we're over 2,500 members and followers at this point, growing pretty quickly. And, we're looking forward to putting some stuff on. So we've got a room set up for Wednesday already that's going to be focused on big ticket sales, franchise sales, enterprise computing sales, that sort of thing. We're going to have another couple set up for this week. We're just trying to nail down times and people. And then we've got other franchise industry pros, from franchisors to suppliers to franchisees. And we're going to try to get franchise conversations throughout the week. There's a lot of stuff that I could sit and ramble on for hours about, but coming into Clubhouse, I decided I would pick my silo and stick to franchising. So
I like that.
That's what we're doing.
Good. You're focused and you have a mission. So Lil, I know there are folks here on the room that also have affiliate marketing expertise. I did notice today that you have quite an affiliate marketing program, and you give a reward of $250 for a client acquisition. So curious to all the folks in the room that have affiliate marketing experience, how could that program perhaps be leveraged on Clubhouse?
Great idea. I mean, with their followings and their audience, most business owners, their circle of friends are business owners, right? So, and that's one of the things I love about Clubhouse, is that it's all like-minded individuals that are on. And so everybody has a friend that has a small business that's looking for somebody to handle their books. And on our website, you can sign up for the affiliate link. And the first month that the customer pays, we pay you a $250 Amazon card, or send you, the funds any way that you'd like them. So I guess there's probably affiliate rooms. As I listen to George, there's probably rooms for all of these groups of audiences, right? And I really love the franchise audience, George, and would be, maybe we can connect after, because with the data-driven, the Snowflake, the data-driven warehouse, we're able to aggregate that data for franchisors, which happens to be a big pain point for them. And then for the franchisees, reporting their financials by the 15th of the month, it's hard for them to find accounting platforms that can do that for them. So maybe offline we can connect. I'm loving all this information. I mean, when you say that you have monetized $100,000, share with us some of the ways that you guys are monetizing through Clubhouse.
I'd like to chime in on your affiliate thing really quickly, though. I think there's a lot of big rooms right now, and then I'll go to Paul. There's a lot of big rooms right now that are running, and there's no monetization behind them. If I were you, Lil, I would be approaching the person in the upper left-hand corner. In this room, it's Rachel. That means that more commonly than not, that's the person who started this room. And I would be approaching Rachel, and I would be saying, hey, Rachel, I want to sponsor your room. And if you would like to put a little commercial in, I'll write the script for you. You read this commercial every so often. I'll give you a special link, tax.club/Rachel. And everyone that goes there, fills out this form and signs up, I will send you a $250 gift card. I would be doing that exact same thing on small podcasts right now. So I would be going after a small influencer market of Clubhouse room hosts, podcast hosts, and grabbing small audience and building big relationships with those people, and then really helping them grow. You know, HubSpot's done an amazing job. We drive about $500,000 a year in revenue for HubSpot. I have a two-man team. It's my wife and I, and we drive about $500,000 a year in revenue for HubSpot. And they've done a phenomenal job at supporting us in helping them achieve their goals.
Wow.
That's a great suggestion. I love that. And that was a great little hack. Go to the first person on the left-hand corner, Gary. Thanks for, reiterating that to us. And I love the commercial idea.
I love that. And I'd like to get you guys' take. Are you guys familiar with, it's IZEA. They were out on the wire today about that they're adding Clubhouse as part of their Shake platform for influencers. Are you guys familiar with them? Any of you guys work with them?
I am not.
Ish, do you know
Gary?
them?
Can you please repeat the question?
It's IZEA is the company.
IZEA.
Oh, IZEA is an influence marketing platform. I'm sorry, what was the question?
So are you guys, any of you guys using them yet? They just announced either today or yesterday that they've now added Clubhouse.
So let me add this. And just to give you guys a background on myself. I organized the Influencer Marketing Conference and Expo, which is the largest influencer marketing event in the world. And IZEA was one of my exhibitors and sponsors at one of my previous events. The reality is IZEA is one out of 1,200 plus influencer marketing platforms. And the only reason you discovered them was because they're advertising, right? Or you read an article. There's so many other platforms. I'm not going to say IZEA is worse or better. But the reality is, the real value is when you explore the options, So IZEA, personally speaking, I wouldn't recommend them. I know so many other platforms and tools, and I'd love to have a conversation with you about that and point you in the right direction.
Perfect. And a board member actually sent it my way today. Is how I found out about them, that they were offering. I found it interesting how quickly all of these supports, cycles are coming up, right?
So IZEA is a publicly traded company, and so they have more resources than the typical influencer marketing platform, and obviously they utilize PR a lot more. And I can see, any company saying, yeah, Clubhouse this, Clubhouse that, but unless you have boots on the ground, it's just all theory.
I want to speak to your question about monetizing, and I know that Gary addressed the affiliate thing. And so I would say, anybody here that has questions about monetizing Clubhouse, Gary runs phenomenal rooms. This is like one of the most common questions that I see on Clubhouse is how do you monetize? So speaking from my experience, I have not put together a 6-figure funnel. I mean, we've had 5 figures, and we have had verified. We can point and track to the clients that we brought on because of Clubhouse. And when I first started using Clubhouse at the start of December, I was thinking of it as a sort of a standard sales channel, almost like I would have like a podcast that I would appear on, or a webinar or a masterclass where I would have, okay, here's a slick funnel, go to this funnel, get your download, and then I'm going to upsell you. I don't know, Gary, you could probably speak to this, whether or not my thinking is right or wrong, but what I've experienced is with Clubhouse specifically, if the audience gets a feeling that you're trying to pitch them something, they're going to disengage and they're going to go somewhere else. because there's so much amazing value that people are literally just giving everything away for free, mostly on Clubhouse, that if they feel like, well, go here and sign up, they're not going to be super stoked. But it comes up naturally where, you start a room about, top 10 ways that I've saved, small businesses, $100 million in 2020 or something like that. And you just answer questions on like, here's some opportunities for tax breaks that you may not have heard of. You cover those sorts of things. What's naturally going to happen is you're going to get flooded with direct messages in Instagram or Twitter. That's just what happens, because people are going to have questions, and maybe they won't even raise their hand to speak. They'll just be sitting in the audience. And so I would say, think through that. Like, if you're going to direct people, say like Gary, go to gary.club/accounting or something, right? And you're going to get my download on the 10 most underutilized ways that most people don't realize they're losing money on taxes or something like that. Make it quickly, accessible, have a good follow-up sequence. And Gary has a really good funnel too. Gary, you have that $500 life mastermind deal. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but that's just been my experience, is giving. And then people are going to pay, because they're going to be like, wow, this guy's so amazing. They give so much. I've got to give them money and see what they can do for, if they're doing this much for free, what do they do when they charge?
Love it.
Gary, go ahead. I mean, I
So
can
that's
actually.
our
Go for it, Ish. Go for it, Ish.
No, I really want to ask this. I'm so sorry. Monetization is something that I'm very passionate about. I've actually had rooms on Clubhouse where we discussed this, and to my surprise, a lot of people haven't figured out a way to monetize the platform. I think this is the easiest platform to monetize if you have expertise, and I'll explain. Paul was spot on. You have to give away so much value that people thirst for more. My buddy Ryan is here. We did 6 figures last month because we developed a course that teaches people how to be profitable domain investors. But we didn't just start out charging people $1,000. It was a build-up, right? It was, let's give away as much as we can. I mean, we sacrifice 18 hours a day on Clubhouse and build a real, genuine, authentic following. And then I told Ryan, look, the sustainable approach to keep doing this is for you to now develop a course. And I walked him through that whole process. And now we developed a course that did 6 figures last month by using the same community as affiliates, right? So it is very easy to make money on Clubhouse. It just starts out with being selfless and curating experts that can amplify the value you're trying to provide. So if you come on Clubhouse and say, I'm the best at what I do, it's not going to work. That's where the pitch comes in. People will be defensive to that. But if you come on Clubhouse and curate experts like what we're doing here, and give people a call to action, the rest is conversions. Thank you.
Thank you.
I take a different.
Good advice. Thank you.
It is great advice. I take a slightly different stance. I run a lot more rooms like Ish and Ryan run. So I run a lot of super, super small rooms that may get 100 people in them, and I make, I don't know, 2,500, $5,000, 15,000, 20,000 per room. There may only be 20 people in the room, but those are hardcore selling rooms. So in those rooms, I'm not inviting Paul in, I'm not inviting Ish in, I'm not inviting George in, I'm not inviting Ryan in. If they come in, they're typically parked in the audience, because those rooms are for me to coach, for me to carry my message, for me to be me. Now I'll come into a room like this and I'll serve like crazy, or I'll go into one of the big rooms with 1,000, 2,000 people, and I'll go in there and I'll just talk about Clubhouse. And then what happens is I get, just like Ish, if we look at Ish right now, Ish has got 14,000. I've got 43.9, Ryan's got 4.8, George has got 7.9. So as you get these followers that follow you, these 7,900 people that follow George, well, now they know George is into franchising, George is into empire building. And then when they go into a room that George is running all on his own, then George gets to control that space and that energy. So that strategy works well. Go into big rooms, go into rooms like this, go into bigger rooms, go into topic specific rooms, or run your own topic specific rooms to grab a following, and then spin up a room that's very, very much in your language and sell like crazy. And I've had no problems with it, because I make it crystal clear, guys, I'm here to work. This is a platform. I run a business. I make money. This is a platform I have full intentions of making money on. I tell everyone that asks me, if you would like to get free coaching and free advice from me, I do it every single day on Clubhouse. If you want focus and you want attention, then I have investment levels that you can invest.
Nice.
And I've had people send me $12,000. I had 4 people in the month of January send me $12,000 pay in fulls that I never ever spoke to on the phone to buy my program, pay it in full. A Peloton instructor, a person out of Sweden, a realtor out of Boston, and a realtor and influencer out of Charlotte, North Carolina. So this is Sweden, Boston, New York City, and Charlotte, North Carolina. I live in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and I never spoke to all 4 of those people on the phone. And one of them was a referral. They had seen someone, you know how people start to talk in the back and they're like, oh, I see Gary on stage. And somebody else says, oh, I see Gary on stage. One of them was a referral and the guy refused the commission. I said, I'll pay you the 20% that I pay. And he said, no, thank you. He said, just perform better for me. He said, I want to bring you as many clients as I can bring you. And I just want you to reward me by showing up more for me. I show up for him as I would for everybody else, but like I'm driving massive revenue out of here by being intentional in the words that I use and letting everyone know I'm not here to provide free coaching. I'm here to work.
You know, Gary, you're speaking my language. I love it. And I think one of the things that I can share with everyone who's taking the time to listen is I can share a tool with you that allows you to have that call to action. So serve, give jams, let people know what you do. Everything Gary said is spot on. But if you guys look at ishmaeli.club, right, I can actually charge people $500 an hour for a marketing strategy session. And I was doing very well doing that. The first time I actually realized how powerful Clubhouse was I did a 1-hour standalone presentation on teaching people how to start their own Shopify store that we manage for them. And 4 people signed up to the mastermind that cost $5,000. I was like, wow, Instagram would never allow me to do that for free. So I really urge you guys to be intentional, like Gary said, about monetizing the platform, because we're putting so much sweat equity into it. So if you haven't come up with a plan, reach out to me. I'll be happy to help. Reach out to Gary. Reach out to people on the platform that have a track record of monetizing it and brainstorm around that, because it's an opportunity that's really, really shaped up fast, and hopefully you guys don't miss the opportunity.
I gotta say, like Gary and Ish, I'm a type of personality that gets inspired by other people that are doing stuff, but I'm also competitive. And it's almost like, oh, if you can do it, I can do it, but I'm going to try to do it better. What this is telling me is that I am not selling enough. Like, I've done a decent job of building an audience. Like, in December, I was doing the 12-hour days. I've got a high growth business that I'm managing, training and customers and all that sort of stuff right now. So I've had to decrease my time on Clubhouse. But what I'm hearing, I need to be okay and start more niche down rooms and be completely cool with, like, all right, let's sell this program. Let's talk about coaching. I think that's my takeaway.
Social media is very, very deceptive. Everyone is going to spend time on here, right? But you have to be intentional. Are you here for the dopamine or the dollars? I'm here for the dollars. I don't make an excuse about it, right? This is a job for me. And some people are just here to hang out, and that's okay, right? But there's a lot of opportunity to monetize this platform, and people value the services and the expertise you bring to the table. So don't be shy about asking people to pay you for your services, and don't feel guilty for monetizing this phenomenal platform. And I'm so happy Gary said that.
I can see the meme right now. Are you here for the dopamine or the dollars? Ishmaeli.
Very good. I agree. All right. So Ryan, it looks like you would like to come to the stage and talk. Ryan.
Oh, hey, everyone.
Okay, Jeff, I think I saw you flashing.
I was clapping for the dopamine or the dollars. Love that
yes.
phrase.
Okay.
Love that.
Very good. All right, Colin Campbell.
All right. Thank you, Michelle. Wow, this has been an amazing session. And I love the fact that we're working with you, Lil, on Zendu to try to help you figure out how you specifically can run your company and scale it using Clubhouse. And I actually wrote down four small little ideas. One of them is, I do believe this idea of you positioning yourself as an expert is key. I actually think in the startup forum, like Startup Club, become a member of that, do some rooms in those larger clubs, and even some of the other ones, like how to make $1 million or $1 million business, and Entrepreneur on Fire, some of those other ones as well. I think they're great clubs to really connect into. Second, I actually think, and I don't know if this violates terms and conditions. If I'm saying something, the experts here, if you could, really counter it, please. But I do like the idea of having the host offer a genuine discount for signing up with a unique code, so that, if you normally give away 1 month free, that, you're actually giving away 2 months free, because, it's a session and this is time that people are spending, and it's always about giving to get. So giving it a little bit more as a discount. Third is, and I did this week, and you can see it at Colin.club on my LinkedIn, is I set up a speaker sheet. I was talking with a gentleman who runs a very large club who asked me to do some speaking with him, and what topics would I cover. And so I put together a speaker sheet, and I'm sending that over to him. If you want to have a look at that, just go to Colin.club. Lastly, you do have a lot of issues in tax, and a lot of entrepreneurs have issues in tax. And in the e-commerce world, and we had Norm here, but we also have Paul, who's an expert in e-commerce. As an example of that is every state in the United States has to charge sales tax for e-commerce companies, and that's a complex situation. So if you get on a panel discussing, in the e-commerce forums, like in Norm's podcast or Norm's group on Clubhouse, Rise of the Micro Brands, that's another way of potentially monetizing. Thank you, Michelle.
Ooh, here you go. If you're a small business owner, do this before you file your taxes. Something along those lines, because right now, our accountants are just asking, hey, do we want to start tax prep and filing? I think, you can pull together, if you have like a curated stage of, verified tax pros, ideally, if they've built a following for themselves, that would be the goal. So you can, work off of each other and grow with each other. But yeah, something along those lines would be good.
Also, Lil, something that I thought of as people were talking too, we talked about, having your customers speak and people who are using your service. But if you have rock star financial people on your team, the people who would be doing my accounting if I hired Zendu, having some of them speak in the room so that the people in the audience can hear, wow, that person's really smart. They could be my accountant, right? I just have to subscribe to Zendu, and I have that person or that quality person. So I think showing the capabilities of your CFO to go team would be very important too, to lure people in and make them interested in using Zendu.
Thanks, Jeff. And, we just did a Lunch with Norm podcast, I did a Lunch with Norm podcast, but our head of tax did a podcast with Norm and Tim on ecom, and you're spot on. Like, you put them on and have them talk to people how they can save money. That's what we all want to do at the end of the day, is how do we keep the money in our pocket instead of paying it in taxes, right?
Right. And then I'll know that person could actually be on my team, because that's who I get if I'm using Zendu.
I must add this as well. I would like to add this, excuse me. The whole objective of Clubhouse is to connect with people and, share gems is what they call it here. But the call to action, I think the ideal funnel is to take people outside of Clubhouse into your own domain, hence Tax.club, right? But one of the things that we've been doing with my group, Digital Real Estate Academy, is we do weekly Zoom calls, and that allows us to connect with people more intimately, and it makes the call to action have a softer landing, right? So when people can listen to you voluntarily at their own time and get additional value in a different platform, now you're going into that omnipresence approach, right? Which in marketing is a necessity, because people trust you the more frequently they listen to you or see you, right? So I think it's important for people to understand that, Clubhouse is just the beginning of the funnel, but the call to action is also very important. You have to lead people. When you speak, you have to tell people, go to tax.club, go to tax.club. It's very important. Otherwise, people will not do what you want them to do. It's very easy to assume that people would naturally follow up with you, but you almost have to ask them. And then you also have to follow up with them. That's cliche.
Great dialogue, Karen. Lil, at the top of the hour, you had a question. Your question was, do you go with tax.club or accounting.club? I think we know the answer, or at least everyone seems to be on board with tax.club, because it's such a predominant thing, right? As we all know, there's two things sure in life. It's taxes and death. So I think our experts are overwhelmingly saying you have the expertise, you get out there, you help, and establish yourself as the go-to person and the expertise. Colin, did you have a question?
Let's just
Or
cheering
comment?
again. Just cheering again.
I have to get used to that, sorry. Okay.
And Michelle, I think you're spot on. I am leaving the room. And thank you guys so much for all of the sharing and the openness of the conversation. But what I'm taking away is, yes, it should be tax.club. And the other, I think, really important thing is that Clubhouse is just an extension of who and what we already do in our businesses. I resonate with all the speakers, with Paul and Gary, and George and Ish. I resonate that we run our business the same way you guys are talking about it. What we do is we help people, and we do that through, free, right? You just want to be there to help them on their journey. And of course, that always equates back to business. But if your intention is to do it because that's what you truly love, people recognize that and they see that. And Clubhouse is just, to me, and it was just recently published in entrepreneur.com yesterday that I authored something about Clubhouse. It's the social media app that's perfect timing of old school talk radio combined with podcast. It gives you to where you can have the conversation. And I think it's so timely for today's world, and that it's the same basic principle of business applies to Clubhouse. And you just have to, use it as another channel, right?
Exactly.
That was awesome. And I was going to say, Ish, you and I should connect, because Norm and I run an agency that we do some really creative stuff with nano and micro influencers. I'm not seeing anybody doing what we're doing. So let's connect, because I'd love to chat about the conference that you run and see if there's any value we can add, bring to the stage for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. Events are very funny right now. I feel like, and this is another thing about Clubhouse. Every time I'm on a stage on Clubhouse, even though I'm in a restaurant in Miami, I don't even know where I'm at. I really feel mentally that I'm on a live stage at a convention center. I take that approach. And the reason I'm saying that is everyone should take that approach, because the reason people pay for trade shows and conventions is because they want to get on stage and sell shit, right? Excuse my French, right? I'm just being blunt. So anytime you have an opportunity to not necessarily pitch a product, but let people know that this is what you do, take advantage of it. And this platform allows us to do that spontaneously at no cost, right? So it didn't exist last year, or 2 years ago, excuse me. So this is very interesting. This is very phenomenal. And, I think what Lil did is a great use case of Clubhouse. Like, I have a decision to make. Let me crowdsource, feedback. And I'm so honored to have been part of this.
And thank each one of you that have participated. So any parting words as we start to wrap up the session? Let's start with Jeff and just make a quick roundtable here. Jeff.
I think it was great feedback. I think the key here is to have a goal. And in your case, Lil, you have multiple goals because you have multiple audiences you want to reach, and then find the rooms and the topics that are going to reach those people. And there's great feedback from everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Colin.
Well, I will say it's pretty cool to see connections being made here, and just that networking effect, Paul with Ish and Ish with Lil and George with Lil. And by the way, Ish, we're going to dinner on Monday night with Lil as well, so that we can move that one along. But just to see that happen live is pretty cool. And if you participate, I don't know, it doesn't matter who you are, but if you participate in these sessions and you start talking to each other, it's pretty amazing to see the connections that can happen and how that can transform Lil's company.
Okay, great. Paul, over to you.
Yeah, I echo everything that Jeff and Colin both said. I would say, give you some practical advice on right now as you're building your influence. The best thing that you can do is go into find rooms that that you can add value in. Raise your hand and politely wait to the opportune time. Don't be like the stage bomber, the stage taker over type person where you just come on, raise your hand, and then you start talking. Recognize that the people that have started the room, no matter how big it is, it's their room. And so, when people come to the rooms that I run and they ask, hey, I think that I can help here, and they're not one of my moderators that I pre-vetted, I'll be like, yeah, that's fine, totally cool. And what I normally do is I just say, if they consistently advice that's not going to be hurting the people, because I feel like I've built a community. I mean, the rooms that I run, they're like my people, because like they expect, like every Wednesday, 3:00, I'm going live, and like I have to show up for them. And so the people that come onto my stage, if they're the speakers that are just going to bulldoze through and just interrupt moderators that I've spent a lot of time pre-vetting, then I'm not. The people that are humble, like they have amazing things that like serve first. Chances are I'll moderate them. They'll be moderators in future rooms. And I've made several people like that. Raise your hand, recognize that you may know more than everybody on stage, but recognize it's their stage and you want to.
Okay, it looks like we lost Paul.
Oops, sorry.
That's okay. It's the connection's kind of going in and out. Okay. So thank you for that, Paul. That's really critical. Keep control of the content so that everyone can benefit. Thank you. Ish.
I mean, for me, I'll just summarize it again. Every time you come to Clubhouse, just be conscious of the fact that you're going to spend time here and be deliberate about your approach. Are you here for the dopamine or are you here for the dollars? Thank you for letting me speak today.
Always. Okay, Ryan.
Hey everyone, great room today. Yeah, I'll emphasize the point that, build community first before anything, because once you build the community, you're going to, determine your product market fit organically. It's just going to happen as a result of the community that you build. And I think that point alone, a lot of people speed through that part because it's easy to do. But if you can build your community from scratch and truly, listen to your prospective customers first, it's going to make your future rollouts much easier.
Thank you, Ryan. And then let's hear from George, and let's then go to our 10-second wrap up for this week. George.
So, I think coming at this, being brought in by Gary, and Gary's got a lot of followers and does all this stuff, and I had follower envy and room envy for a while, and Gary was very kind and kind of brought me along for a little bit when I first got in here. I think that the key for me is don't have follower envy. Go find the right followers, go find the right connections, the people that you want to have substantive conversations with, and get close to them and bring them value. And just build relationships. I think the surprise for me is I came in thinking maybe this can add to my franchise sales pipeline. And it's brought so much more than that I can't measure. One of the larger deals I'm working on right now is a 9-figure sale of a franchisor. And I've done M&A work before, but wasn't expecting to do it here. But, it drops into your plate. So I think, go in, build relationships, have conversations, pay attention to all of the opportunities coming past you, and see where you can help people get their goals done. That's really kind of the focus of it for me.
Thank you, George. Good advice. All right, Rachel, back to you for our wrap up.
I'll cover it here. Follower envy, George. I think that before this episode or before this discussion, I did not have follower envy, and I think I might have it now. So we'll see. I mean, we do know it's important. We learned about that today. To build a community, you do need followers. Next week, we are going to do how to build a community on and off Clubhouse. Michelle, she runs a company, she owns a company that I've invested in called Meowingtons, and they have over 1 million followers. And we want to hear that story, but we're also going to want to learn from those who've actually built communities on Clubhouse. So next Friday from 2 to 3 we are thinking about putting it on Startup Club. I'll let you know if we do that. It shouldn't change anything in the way you connect with us. Just please look out for Serial Entrepreneur Club and check us out on our blog, serialentrepreneur.club or se.club, for those of us who cannot spell. Have a great day.
Thank you, Lil, for being vulnerable and joining us today, and everyone else. Have a
Thank you.
wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.